Welcome to Lecture 1, Speech Introduction and Structure. So, you might be asking yourselves when taking this class, why do I need to give a speech? How often am I getting up and making a speech in front of a bunch of people? It's a good question. I think you'll find as you go into a career that you do it more often than you think. Now, it might not be as formal as giving a speech for class, but you'll start to do it in different ways throughout your career, be it on a very small scale or a large scale. So, to start with, just think how many industries involve public speaking? And that could be speaking with a large crowd, or that can be even kind of speaking one on one. So think of a doctor. Every day they are more or less meeting with the public and giving a speech of some kind. That interaction, that back and forth between two people. Think of lawyers. Think of pastors. I think of even in my own personal life running a small business, how often I go to meetings and I meet with clients and I have to give a little speech about our company and what we do. Or if I go to things like a Rotary Club or a Chamber of Commerce, oftentimes they'll ask you to go around the room and give a little 30-second pitch about your company. Just going to networking events and things like that, you'll start to do it more often than you realize. So getting used to it and practicing it and getting some experience with it is really crucial. So as we're going forward, don't necessarily think of this as just getting up and giving a speech like you would, you probably maybe done a class like this in high school or something like this. That always going to be this formal of an undertaking. It's not. And it's not something you're going to do every day unless you do go into something like being a pastor or something like that. But the skills and tools and the ability to get comfortable with speaking with others is the kind of crucial key to this class. So start thinking of what it is you're wanting to do for a career. And you could probably start breaking down in what ways that you'll interact with somebody. That speaking in a clear, coherent way becomes very important. Speaking in public is a skill worth practicing. It really is. Communication is so crucial, and that interpersonal communication that you will have when you go out into a career world will be invaluable. And again, you'll use it a lot more than you know. So I think taking this time to just think of it like a sport. You practice before you play the game. We're going to look at this as practice. Putting forth the effort, putting forth the disciplines that you learn into practice is kind of what I'm looking for. There is a lot of fear with public speaking. It's not something we love to do. And in fact, I've heard before, and don't quote me on this, it's like one of the number one fears that people have. It's not something the average person just relishes doing day in and day out. There's a lot of yourself that you put on the line when you do a very formal public speech. You feel very vulnerable. You can feel very judged. And I think it's a lot of the preconceived notions that we start with before we give a speech that we're fearing. That anxiety is a fear of something that has yet to happen. We're worried about what something may happen in the future. So I think working in this class on overcoming your fears is very crucial. And some of you, now that it is an online class, may be very excited. Maybe the idea of standing in front of the class in a classroom really scared you. And being online might seem a little less threatening. But in any case, I think the practice will still be there. Look at this class also, and I know I hate that it is online, but it is what it is. And I still do Zoom meetings all the time for my company, or as a professor. So being able to speak in such a way that with confidence and things like that as you go forward, I think online that's going to be here with us. That if you can speak well online, it's just as an important of a tool to have. But really, if you have a fear of public speaking, we're going to really baby step our way into this so that you don't feel too overwhelmed by everything. But let's break the structure of a speech down just a little bit. It's a little bit like writing an essay. If you have had any kind of, I'm assuming since you're all in college, you've had some sort of essay writing practice. Introduction, body, conclusion, sort of the three steps of a lot of everything, but the rule applies for speech as well. The introduction is really, starting well and ending strong are not the only parts of a good speech or a good anything for that matter. I mean, even if you look at something like music, start well, end well. Look at movies, start well, end well. That middle is definitely the hard part, but for the introduction, there's is your time to get the attention of the audience. Why are we going to listen? What is the point of what you're trying to say, and why am I, as the audience, needing to collect the information you're giving me? How does this interest me? So we want to get the audience attention early on. Sometimes this is called a hook. You don't have to always be clever or cute in hooking the audience in. I think for a lot of this, it's the enthusiasm that you're putting in your speech that gets people's attention. If you're excited about it, I'm excited about it. If you're bored about it, I'm bored about it. So really putting that energy in the beginning, that opening, that's going to just kind of naturally draw people. You can get cute, or you can kind of play with a sense of irony with something in the way that you start, but you don't always have to. Just start to think of what is going to make my audience listen. What is going to flip their expectations with something? So stating something like, maybe what our preconceived notion of somebody when they get up to, give a speech. For instance, I heard one the other day. It was somebody talking about, just to look at me, you might not think I am somebody who loves rock and roll, but I do. And it was kind of attention getting, because to see it was another professor, it was a video I saw, it was kind of interesting. It was like, yeah, I would not expect, rock and roll to be on your list of likes. So that got my attention very early on. So it's kind of flipping a notion. But just hitting people with some kind of fact, figure, something that really draws them in, start to think and it doesn't always have to be big. It doesn't always have to be funny, cute, or clever. It can be. I think if it just feels naturally that it's pulling people in, that's a good way to go. Okay, and then in the introduction, we have a thesis statement. What is the point? What is it you're trying to argue? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's, what is the point of this speech? I am arguing that this, or example that I'll give later, Star Wars is the greatest movie because, and then we have a preview of the main points. You don't always have to sit there and label it like you would an essay, point one, point two, point three, but we can, certainly flirt with what those things are going to be, and then we'll expound upon them. We don't always just want to end our thesis statement without a preview of what's what's going to come. So we want to make sure that we're expounding just a little bit on that thesis statement, um, to kind of drive and move it forward. This is what I believe. This is what you can come. This is what you'll be expecting to hearing me to prove my point with. And then we have the body. So we have the introduction. We've hooked them in. We've transitioned into the body of the argument. So our main points are the proofs that you're making. If Star Wars is the greatest movie ever, why? You don't want to. You'd rather kind of stick to the strongest of the strong for your argument. You don't want 30 points to be made where some of them are sort of nebulous or, unnecessary. Start with the strongest. And then, given the time constraints that you'll have with these speeches, just given, the class size, they're not going to be very long. You don't need that many. It's better to expound upon, 2 to 4 proofs that really suggest a strength behind them versus giving 10 with little information to back them up. And then we back up our main points with supporting details. So it's the proof of the proof. This is where we kind of align with the speaker, where we start to understand what it is that they're talking about. This lets us know, okay, there's some validity to what it is that they're saying, that they're not just making this up. There's fact behind it, or we understand why they believe what they believe. So then we have these transitions, which are a segue between points. We don't want to alienate the point that was just made. We want to link it. If we think of a speech like a chain, it's got to be linked to the next little connection in the chain, right? We don't want to just make it stand by itself. So we got to look at different ways to segue between the points. So if you look at this link here, and I'll let you kind of do that at your leisure. On the PDF, you'll be able to click on it and go here. It shows some transitions between different points that you can make, that we can move from point 1 to point 2. And in fact, let's just click on it. Why not? Why the heck not? So we can start to see the types of transitions. This is a really good article just to kind of look over on your own. And really, these transitions, they help your argument flow smoothly, as it says. They reveal the relationship between facts, and they help your audience understand. That's why we transition. Keeps things organized. We like it nice and organized and to make sense. We don't want a stream of consciousness speech. We want it coherent and together. So we have examples you can use: transition between similar ideas or points, transition between contrasting idea or points. We can transition to elaborate upon an idea. You can number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A cause and effect relationship, supporting example, demonstration, and so on and so forth. You can kind of look at these and see as you're going forward. I found this to be pretty interesting too. What a faulty transition looks like. So take a look at this as you're starting working on your first speech. This is or all your speeches. This can become a good resource down the road for you. Okay. And then we have our conclusion, which is a little bit of a summary, a review of the main ideas, how you've come up with what you've come up with. The conclusion, what are we taking away from this? I made a point, I supported it with fact. This is the totality of what I've been trying to say. And we want to keep that conclusion short. We don't want to ramble. We don't want to take it too long. The point should have already been made. Now you're just hammering it home what it is. So keep that conclusion short. Again, looking at kind of how everything works, we have the intro, an attention getter or hook, a thesis statement, a preview of main points. Then in the body, we have the main points, supporting details, transition, and a conclusion. That is the structure of the speech that we'll be using this semester. I hope this helped. This will kind of get us going, and I'll see you at the next lecture.